Children and Youth Unit members and all our viewers, in our mighty name of Jesus Christ. I think everyone saw the posters. For those who didn't see the poster, Umfundis is going to be doing a presentation about a look beyond a lockdown. So if you guys have any questions, you can pop them through and after a presentation. So
Greetings to you, friends, in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Namhlanje, I think we will all be dealing with a topic that is before us, meaning a look beyond the lockdown. Well, in the true sense of the matter, a look beyond the lockdown is quite a mammoth task at the moment. Or serious, that is kind of too heavy for many of us, because we are all engulfed by pain, we are engulfed by death, we are engulfed by anxiety, sickness, and all these kind of things that create uncertainties. And so from where I sit, I want to put it before you that I do not make this presentation having cast in stone kind of answers or presentations, but I want to invite you to a concept that was first coined by John Wesley, that says think and let think and let think. While we brace ourselves for a longer period out at war with COVID-19, which is the invisible enemy, we've got to really think. And so the concept of think and let think, Wesley put it to us, who followed his teachings, that at no stage that you would regard yourself as the brain that is the brain amongst other brains. Basically, it means that if your brain is thinking, then you need to allow other space to think as well. And so I've been thinking about COVID-19. And so in thinking about COVID-19, I'm also here to kind of open up space for all of us to think together and begin to vision a means and ways beyond the lockdown, or rather beyond COVID-19. Because the lockdown level 3, but I suspect that we are already on level 0, if not -1. You know, we have skipped all others from level 3, level 2, level 1, and then we jumped to level 0, and so we're going that way. And unfortunately, unfortunately, a president could only do so much in terms of trying to safeguard the nation and safeguard the people. And we need to commend a government for being proactive in trying to cap the curve, in as much as the numbers are increasing at the moment. But I strongly believe that the initial step that was taken, which was to put all of us in lockdown level 5, also worked out something positive, so that all our frail health institutions can somehow get closer into trying to deal with the effects of COVID-19. And so let's think together. I repeat this, that Wesley was basically encouraging his contemporaries to also apply their minds on issues of religion, theology, and socioeconomic discourse. And so let me put it to you from onset that my thoughts and your thoughts will then help us together, and as we strive to move beyond COVID-19. This pandemic, I understand that it is not the first pandemic to engulf the entire world. And so while we are dealing with a few issues, you know, I would want to put it to us that I'm sure all of us know, or most of us know, that this is unprecedented. As much as the 1918 fever and all others happened maybe somewhere out there and stuff like that, we here in this part of the world, we are feeling the pain, we are feeling its effects, and unfortunately, amaxhwele ancamile, amagqirha ancamile, opastor bepetrol nedum bancamile, nathi befundisi siyoyika, and so scientists nazo ziyazama nje kakhulu ukuthi ke zize ne-vaccine that will help everyone to overcome indaba ye-COVID-19. But in one way or the other, what we know is that the world will never be the same again after this lockdown. It will never be the same again, economically, physically, psychologically, and otherwise. It will never be the same. And so we see mass grave, actually, in as much as we do not see what has happened in Italy and the US and Spain and all those other places. But day in, day out, we are having funerals. Today, I've had 4 funerals in my circuit, and I had to take 2. I've listened to another minister having done the 7th funeral this week in just 5 days. And so it is inevitable that uloyiko lona lukhona. And lukhona nje uloyiko, it is very difficult to look beyond what is currently happening. If you were staying in a home that your neighbor on the left will die, your neighbor on the right will die, and your neighbor right in front will die, as it were, where I come from, Ekaya, then you will know, Uguchi, in one way or the other, coronavirus will affect us. If you are not infected, it will affect you in whatever means. And so we will all have a story. And President Ramaphosa then said, possibilities are that we will carry on with COVID-19 for at least another 2 years, you know. And so if we will carry on with coronavirus for at least another 2 years, then there's a whole shift. And in one sermon that I preached, I think here on Facebook as well, I alluded to what is called the new normal, meaning that our lives will never be normal in the same way that they were, but will then be introduced in another ways of doing things. And so I wish to submit that COVID-19 is pushing us basically into a 5th industrial revolution, if I may. 5th industrial revolution, it's something that is beyond what is currently happening now, because 4th industrial revolution is about robotics and computers and data use and stuff like that, which will replace abantu in the workspace, in the workplace and stuff like that. And so a 5th industrial revolution for me is that which will push us to relate with each other virtually. We have started having e-services, virtual sermons and stuff like that. And currently we are doing a virtual session. And so this is another shift, and a shift that was not even predicted by the powers that be, meaning that the big developed countries. We were all caught with our pants down. And in fact, their arrogance of their power caused more catastrophe than it would be in the not so developed countries, that is the 3rd world countries, which is the sub-Saharan Africa and the smaller countries. US has been brought into its knees, Italy has been brought to its knees, Spain, China, and everywhere else. They were all caught with their pants down. And so we were fortunate enough in this part of the world that by the time it hit us, we were already aware of what was happening there. And we were aware, and we were somehow able to put measures in place that would at least limit the amount of infections that would happen. Then after level 3 or level 3B, then all broke loose and everyone went back to the streets, and then more people are infected and all those kind of things. And so it is also forcing us backwards. And so I just posted now on my timeline that I'm expected to talk on the look beyond the lockdown, and I'm asking people, what do you see? Because from where I see it, I also see some blurry pictures going forward. But having seen that, I think to start with, coronavirus then pushes us back into the three concepts that I wish to introduce today, which is one, dependency, two, independency, and three, interdependency. And so if I speak about dependency, then I speak about every one of us having dependent on what we know and what we knew, which is now shaken by coronavirus. Some of us are dependent on their jobs. They are losing their jobs. Some of us are dependent on their education. Schools are closed. Tertiary institutions are uncertain. We are calling for government to close down schools because they are getting more infections. 224 kids at one school in Lusikisiki were infected. And we see in the region where we stay in Buffalo City, about 30 schools were closed down and stuff like that. And so all that we depend on basically is shaken. Our strongholds of dependency are shaken. Our family strongholds are shaken. We've lost one member of our family last night, which is one of our Kulwabe to whom who were so much dependent on in terms of advice, in terms of looking at them and the way of doing things as a family. And he's gone by illnesses and stuff like that. And unfortunately, every kind of death today is related to COVID-19, whether the person was positive or not. We think about that later. And so our dependent strongholds, which we so much rely on, are shaken in one way or the other. And so what does this then pushes us to? It pushes us into then re-evaluating the status quo, re-evaluating how we do things, re-evaluate how our lives are structured, re-evaluate how our places of dependency are structured, and so be able then to move towards what I would then call independency, meaning that independency requires you are able to find yourself in the space where all looks doom and gloom. You are able then to say, here I am, so then what? What is the next move? What do I need to do? But unfortunately, even our independency, that which we trusted so much about ourselves, is also shaken. That I think I've been leading my life, which has caused me to be comfortable with who I am and how independent I was and whatever that I was doing is currently shaken, you know. And so that part of independence, because the dependency on our jobs and the dependency on our families and the dependency on our strongholds then translated into us being able to view and envision our lives going forward and lead it into what we want it to be. And secondary to that, our independence is also shaken by anxiety. I contend that a number of people who have died of COVID-19 were defeated before they were told their results, meaning that they died before they even died, because the day you were asked to go into the test with the symptoms, or the day you were asked to go into the test with having someone testing positive, which you were in contact with, then people get defeated. And I just started now, if as a person, when a leader, let's say you have a phobia, once and then you scream your lungs out, immediately you're struggling to breathe and all those kind of things, which is something insignificant. And I can't feel when it no, come down and stuff like that. How much more then when you are frightened by and you are too anxious waiting for your test test results, if you get what I'm trying to say. And so many of the people succumb at that point before they even get their results. By the time they get their results, they are defeated already. And so one of the most critical things that I wish to raise on the issue of independency, we then need to strive towards remaining calm. It's very difficult. Let me tell you something. It's very difficult to remain calm. It's very difficult to not to be paranoid. It's very difficult not to suspect the next person next to you. It's very difficult when someone gets into your house and be like, not a sanitizer, you know. Now I even have a thermometer where I screen you when you get into my house, you know, and stuff like that, because I'm paranoid. I don't want you to bring my COVID. And to safeguard myself against you thinking that COVID, I simply tell you that I'm COVID. Yeah? So we've got to test each other. And so all of that which created what we knew as making us feel this sense of independence is also shaken. And then there's also a concept of interdependency. Okay. Now, interdependency basically means that all that you know, from being dependent from your home into being dependent from yourself and your strongholds, you could not exist by yourself, if you get what I'm trying to say. You could not exist in a Bible. So you are because I am because you are, if you get what I'm trying to say. And so I exist because you exist. Now, all of a sudden, COVID-19 pushed us into a dark hole where you can no longer depend on others. You know, if you get what I'm trying to say, where you can no longer rely on making a visit to your friend and say, Chomi was right, where you pick up a call and your friend tells you that they are tested positive of COVID-19, and you say, I'm also waiting for my results and stuff like that. And so also that part of our lives, which interdepended on another, right? Then it is also shaken. Then, so what do we do? Where do we go from here? I don't know. How do we get out of the hellhole we find ourselves in? And so I would invite people to come and chat about these things. But let me move swiftly before we invite people to converse on these issues. That the flip side of the coin of all these that I've tabled now, dependency, strongholds, where we depended on which way, which are currently shaken, our strongholds, our independence, shaken by losing our jobs, by losing our friends, by losing anything that we believed on as building Zetu, our interdependency that is now dismantled, and everyone and stuff like that, and in one way or the other. The flip side of the coin for me is that even the three that I've alluded to now then also become our stronghold in terms in that if COVID-19 immediately on lockdown, it really forced us into fostering or re-engineering or reviving our relations where we depended mainly on. And so if umnana wesikolo uhlale bhayi, then immediately got a lockdown, you were forced to go back home, right? And so going back home, no matter how hard you try to stay away from home and stuff like that, but COVID-19 said to you, Sisi, go to Uka. Go back to that mother, go back to that father, go back to that brother, go back to that cousin and stuff like that. That is your safe space. And so COVID-19 gave us an opportunity, therefore, to re-engineer and revitalize our strongholds where we depend mostly on, to be able to be worried together, to be able to be sick together, to be able to then find remedies together, to be able to say it was right, to be able to say to your sister or your brother who is quarantined at the back of your home, to say and stuff like that. It may be just that we're not in contact for many months, for many days, for many years with our people, which we grew up with and stuff like that. We see gender-based violence somehow escalated during the lockdown because people were forced, right? They were forced to go back to their homes. zonke ezindawo Shisanyama, your other homes and your other houses and which gave you relief, then now they were all closed, and the only thing you could do is to go back to that spouse, to that wife, to that family, to those kids whom you then missed so much, or you did not have time with. And so the flip side of the coin, in as much as our strongholds are dismantled in terms of our dependencies, but it also gave us an opportunity of a reawakening, an opportunity to say, let me spend more time with these people. When you go out to Bega Mall, everyone in the house is worried about you. Be safe, be safe, and stuff like that, because everyone, all of a sudden, everyone now cares. And then in that space, that is where your independency, right, was then called upon to be able to spill to others the positive attitude. While you are afraid yourself, but you are able to say to your brother, to your sister, no, it's gonna be okay, and stuff like that. By that, you're also drawing strength, because you see in the kukhona abantu that are getting well with this thing, and so you are able to gain strength from the inside of you. You are able to remain positive in the inside of you. All that worries you outside of yourself is your interdependent strongholds. And then it also gives you an opportunity to say to all those whom are around you, which you also depended on to live, right? It also gives you opportunity to care for others. It gives you an opportunity, therefore, to be able to be there for each other. It gives you an opportunity that while you feel strong and all those kind of things, you are able to go out to Pick n Pay and buy the garlics and the gingers and stuff like that and deliver to your friend that is on quarantine or on isolation. You are able to go and buy groceries and deliver to someone's family who could not do that anymore. And so COVID-19, right, in as much as people are dying and stuff like that, it has weakened our dependency, independence, and interdependence. But on the flip side of the coin, therefore, if then we're optimistic about it, then it also gave us opportunities then to be able to spread love and all of that. Now, how do we then move forward? And what do I see, beyond the lockdown? What I see beyond the lockdown is that, of course, life will not be the same. Of course, people will not be the same. Of course, and all those kind of things. And so there will be none of those things. And so and I was strengthened by, in fact, a sermon that was preached on Isaiah 56, if not mistaken. Abazalwane besithi ke uYehova wasisalisela intwana, right? uYehova left us a remnant after the destruction of the entire nation, after some of the people then became martyrs of the situation, after some people were infected, if I may, by coronavirus. There are some of us who will then remain. And I want to then say to you, that's what I see beyond the lockdown. I see a victorious nation. I see a victorious community. I see a people who will say, and now we are here. We will remember those who have passed. We will remember those who have succumbed to COVID-19 and all those kind of things. My take and my advice, and what I think I am living by at the moment, is not to focus on the negatives, as hard as it is at the moment, and as hard as I bury people week in, week out, midweek and weekend, and stuff like that, and people are dying. And every time I go to a funeral, I worry about my safety, I worry about my health, I worry if I will not come back infected and stuff like that. Then I worry if I would not infect my children and all those kind of things. And I worry about my mother who has comorbidities and stuff like that and all those kind of things. But I cannot allow myself to stop living and breathing simply because I will be infected by coronavirus maybe tomorrow or even now for that matter. I do not allow myself to then focus on what is not, rather than focusing on what could be in the future. I have dreams when I that way too. I have things that I want to achieve, and I have milestones that I wish to reach and stuff like that. In this lockdown, I strive towards those goals. And in fact, lockdown has given me an opportunity to work on some of the things that I could not work with while it was all open and stuff like that. While I was busy with the church and all those kind of things, I had neglected myself in the process. But lockdown forced me into my own house, where I could then be able to envision my future and the future of my kids and begin to work on the things that I've always wanted to work on. And so I cannot allow myself at the moment to die while living and not being able to pursue that future. And in fact, I even contend with my friends that the time to invest in yourself is now. The time to invest in your future is now. If you don't have money to invest in your money, there are other elements of your life that you've neglected so much that coronavirus and the lockdown has given you opportunity to re-look at yourself, to re-look at your character, to re-look at what you've been doing. And for argument's sake, if you've not been studying and stuff like that, then coronavirus gives you an opportunity to think that, hey, by the way, I last went to school in 2016 or 2017 or stuff like that. Let me register for distance learning. If you've been lazy with your assignments, do your assignments. If you've not been able to look after your livestock, if I may, then COVID-19 is saying to you, there's no coronavirus as Bokwe, as Gushen and stuff like that. Then work on that project so that it becomes something that gives you a sense of living and a sense of belonging. If you've neglected your family, coronavirus says to you, build your relationships with your wife, your kids, your sisters, your brothers, so that after coronavirus, you emerge out strongly. Later, I have stopped watching the news. I don't watch. I don't know what's the numbers now today. I don't know about infected and about recovery and stuff like that. Once in a while, I look at it and just for my own curiosity. And so I choose deliberately to focus on the positives. I choose to celebrate the little things. I choose not to listen on the negative news and stuff like that. I choose not to listen on how many people have died. In fact, I choose not to watch the news. I only check News 24 on my phone and read what I can read and stuff like that, and then move on, because that creates anxiety. Immediately when someone asks me to go and test, because that's what I see on TV. But the pictures which are 200 and something or 1,000 something across the province, and that creates paranoia. And so I choose to remain present in the moment. I choose to remain sane in the moment. I choose to focus on myself and focus on my family and all that gives me life. I choose not to listen. So one, don't listen to negativity. People are dying. People are meant to die. COVID-19 is also forcing abantu. And in fact, abanye bethu mhlambi bebeke banayo baphinda bayiluza bengazazanga ngenxa yoba we are overdosing ourselves with all these other remedies. Abanye bethu are still going to test positive in the next 2 years or so, or maybe all of us are. If then 60% of the country, as Dr. Zolim Kize has said, will then be infected, it means that I may be infected now, or I will be infected tomorrow if I'm not now, or someone that I know and stuff like that. So I can't live in fear. I refuse to be afraid. So I choose to be present in the moment. And I also choose deliberately to be connected with the people who give me life, with the people who give me that knee check, with the people who instill positivity in my life, with the people who will say to me, it is going to be okay, with the people whom I can say to them, no, my friend, Uzaba right. So I don't lose that connection. Once in a while, I check that one, and I remain interconnected with all those people, because that's where my life is. And also, so that this way I can move, right? Just 2 points. And also, I strive to find a purpose for my existence. I try to find purpose for my existence. And that purpose for my existence now will help me see beyond the lockdown. It will help me strive to survive beyond the lockdown. It will help me, if I am diagnosed positive today, I am sure that I will defeat COVID-19 because I have a future. I will tell God that no, and because I have set goals that make me want to jump out of bed and go into the morning, if you get what I'm trying to say, because I have searched for my purpose, right? And so even in the loss of jobs, even in poverty, I would say, even in all the negativity, the loss of friends, the deaths and stuff like that, if you get what I'm trying to say, I long to live with some purpose and know that those who have to die will die. And if I die, then I may die, as long as I remain positive and I know that I'm doing a quasi. Then before last, then I would challenge all of us to create small, realistic goals for each week and not be afraid to go with the flow, if I may. And so in your small space, then create realistic goals, which are just small as the size of your space, and be willing to go with the flow. Going with the flow is that if it happens today, then it happens. If it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. If I can't afford it, then I can't afford it. If I can't achieve it now, then I can't achieve it now, and I will move to the next. And so also use the time so that you find out what really motivates you, because the danger of COVID-19 is taking us away from ourselves. That's one. And so COVID-19, and then you live externally from yourself and see yourself dead, see yourself sick, see yourself dying, see yourself unable to breathe, see yourself with all this kind of negativity, because you have then been removed from yourself by fear and stuff like that. In the lockdown, discover yourself. Know what makes you tick. Know what makes you cry. Know what makes you successful. Know what makes you fail. Know your limitations so that you are able to focus on your strongholds. And in the end, be willing and intentional. Be willing and intentional to then go back to your natural resources. Your natural resources is your spirituality. Spirituality is your relationship with your God, and is your relationship with your parents, and is your relationship with those that were your forebearers of faith, and those that were your forebearers of your religion, and those that were your forebearers of your culture and tradition. And I'm saying to you now, once you revitalize that spiritual being of yourself, then your inner being will say to you, you know, but because one, you have not lost your hold with your God, and two, you are present in the moment, and three, you know that you have a cloud of witnesses in those who have departed, those who have taught you to be strong, those who have loved you, those who have said to you, we fought for you, and so you've got to leave. Those whom people would say and stuff like that, because that gift of Makulwako was passed on to you. And so we have an obligation today to tap on what God has created for us and be present in the moment and be able to envision that which was espoused, was driven by Abazali Betu who had departed. I think I've said quite a lot. Let me stop right there so that we see we will have any form of interaction.
Okay. Dick Bulele Tata, with enlightening us with your wise words about a look beyond a lockdown. But when I'm looking at the comments, I can't find any questions so far. But I have like one or two questions in looking at the fact that South Africa is a developing country, right? It's not as developed as yet. How does one have the eyesight to actually look beyond the lockdown when you know that your country is a developing country and the only places you can compare your country to are developed countries? meaning you look at China and you see how well they're doing with things like being able to assist students when it comes to education and everything like that. They well taken care of, ne? When it comes to health and everything. Now, how do you have a look beyond the lockdown when your country specifically is a developing country that one is running out of funds when it comes to health issues, is basically not assisting any students when it comes to education, because even the equipment that is given our education members are not safe for them to even wear. They're not even protective of their own beings. So how does one actually see a look beyond the lockdown when you have those kind of dynamics around you?
All right. I think let me start by saying our biggest mistake is looking at other countries and wish that we could be like them, or try to model ourselves to what they achieve, you know, because it limits us from appreciating what we have and what we are. And so if you would always look at someone else's, njoba ujonge iplate yomnyenje, it may be that right? That's one. And so anyone who would say to me, but America, China, and stuff like that, but I would say, but we're in South Africa. And so how do we make the best of what we have, of the little things that we have? And I've been raised and groomed from a family that taught me to appreciate the smallest things, you know, about life, and be content with what I have and what I do not have. And so we, in the main, I would then encourage every South African to say, South Africa is not a rich country. Our communities are not rich. Our families are not rich. However, we are blessed with immense gifts and skills that could help us to look beyond the law. And so where I am and where I sit knowing very well that I wish I could. And then I then strive to be present in the moment. Now, being present in the moment, being present in the moment means that all of us are then challenged to make do with what we have. If you can have a certain amount to take you to varsity, take that opportunity and run with it. If you have an opportunity to have a goat, take that opportunity and run with it, even if it's one. If you have an opportunity in your household to have someone that can give you that need, take that opportunity and make the best of it. Because it is only then that we will be able to live fully in ourselves and appreciate and be content with what we have. And maybe later in the week, I will be talking to that limit of resources and looking at how we can make the best of it, because we, particularly the Black people, we are an industrious community and we are a loving community. Our parents grew up not in richness, actually in the worst of times, where Black people had no opportunity of anything good in the country. And so we are fortunate enough to be exposed in some of these elements that they could not get during their times. And so that includes land, cultivation, that includes making business for ourselves, that includes studying in the smallest means that we can. That includes having someone next door who can sponsor your studies and stuff like that. So what do we do in the third world country like South Africa? I then challenge every young person and everybody to make the best of what you have at your disposal. And the people whom I think should be suffering the most are those living beyond the poverty line, meaning that those who cannot even afford 20 rands per day. That is a loaf of bread. But all of us who can afford a loaf of bread per day, right, are relatively poor. And that relative poverty means that there is something that we have, but we are not yet where we want to be. And so it's not all doom and gloom. If you are relatively poor, I would say you have plenty of opportunities. Just look around you and see what you can make so that it can be able to give you a need check. You don't have money to go to varsity, try and sell a magwinya. That magwinya will give you a job in the catering business and go to university, if you get what I'm trying to say. But each one of us, I would then challenge to really make the best of the smallest amounts of blessings that you have.
Okay.
I don't know if Nakpendo.
Yes, I think you've captured me. I think Nabanya Bantu, they are captured, but I'm just going to keep shooting questions that I have to you. You spoke about having realistic goals. How does Kengoku Umtu have realistic goals in a situation like this? We are in a pandemic. People are confused. Some people are confused. Some people are anxious. Some people don't know what's going to happen next. How then does one actually calm themselves down to say, okay, what do I want to achieve? What do I want? What do I see? Where do I see myself? You know, how does one actually grab themselves and put themselves in that mindset of actually saying, okay, you know what, we're in a pandemic. It's time for me to actually look at myself and see what has been going on, anything that has been bothering me, and all those dynamics. Ne? Then uzenza njani eza realistic goals ka situation whereby she's just anxious of what's going to happen next, doesn't know where to go, how to do certain things. How do you become realistic in those kind of situations? And people who are in disadvantaged places, how would you say they should apply actually going to do in the realistic goals? Sorry.
Lita, for me, I think it's all in the mind. I may be wrong. How I wish that there could be other people that could really attest to this. For me, it's all in the mind. For me, it's all in what you focus on, if I may. When I say what you focus on, I mean that what you focus on expands. Okay, what you focus on expands. If you focus on a lack, it expands. If you focus on what you have, it expands. If you focus on what you could not have, it also expands. And so I will say, let us then align our stage of focus and be able to focus on rather more optimistic means of living. And so if you're talking about education, right, we then need to be able to focus, right, on redefining what education is, right? And redefining what education is means that we ought to be able to immerse ourselves in that redefinition of education. Study with purpose, create pockets of thought systems that will also enable your purpose, so that you are able then to live in the space and be present in the moment. And the key word that I want to use here in all of this that I'm saying about is that be present in the moment, so that while you are present in the moment, you look at. I always contend when the reason, amongst many others, of course, this is not the only one. One of the reasons the rich people keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, it is their state of focus, right? And so a rich person will focus on how to get rich. And if Ufumana 100,000, he will focus on how to make $1 million out of that 100,000. And he will focus on how to make $1 billion out of that million, if you get what I'm trying to say. But a poor person who does not have a slice of bread at home focuses on not having bread. And so the more you look down at yourself and think that I don't have bread, then you won't have bread, because you are making no effort to try and have and at least get a slice of bread. And so where I'm getting at that, your state of focus will then determine how you emerge beyond the lockdown and COVID-19. And so we've got to dig deep in our beings in saying that, quite honestly, I'm afraid. Quite honestly, I can't breathe. Quite honestly, I'm afraid that my mother could die tomorrow, the next or the other, because we're diabetic and stuff like that and all those kind of things. But my state of focus is not necessarily on what could happen, on the bad things that could happen to me tomorrow. My state of focus is that, how am I going to make it beyond this lockdown? And what I say to people who have the smaller means that we have, if you really want to invest on anything and you have that small amount to invest on it, go buy it now, because it is cheaper, because the market is low. If you want a property, buy a property now, because the market is bad. You know, the interest rate is low and all those kind of things. If you want livestock, go and buy livestock, because no one goes to auctions at the moment. Go and buy it, because beyond lockdown, when the economy booms, you will not be able to achieve what you could have achieved while in lockdown. So your state of focus, your mental and your psycho-spiritual being will determine who you are. If you choose to live in fear, then you will die of fear before you die of COVID. While when the lockdown is over, you will remain in that fear and you will realize that actually I haven't achieved anything. But if you choose deliberately to say, COVID or no COVID, I will remain safe, I will take precaution, I'll put on my mask, I'll put on my gloves, I will not loiter around unnecessarily and stuff like that, but I will strive to work on my purpose. Then it's all here. It's all in your state of focus. I'm not sure if I'm telling you anything. I'm assisting you when this is one. And so then one of the most important things for me then is know what makes you tick. Know who is on your side, and know